Hello and welcome to CareerWise, the place where we explore and discuss the issues that matter to the teaching profession. On today's show, we take a look at the Gifted and Talented programme and head for Essex, where one coordinator, Ken Lewis, is taking his pupils into another world.
It genuinely is the best school event I've ever been involved in myself.
To discuss the Gifted and Talented programme, we'll be joined in the studio by Deborah Eyre, Director of the National Academy for Gifted and Talented Youth, John Bangs from the NUT, and lecturer Helen Wilson. Then, to look at the programme at primary level, we'll visit St Bartholomew School in Brighton.
Questioning is a really big thing, Gifted and Talented, making children think.
What would happen if gravity was turned off for 5 minutes a day?
The Gifted and Talented programme was formalised in 1999 as part of the government's Excellence in Cities initiative. The idea was to identify children who were gifted, high achievers in academic subjects, or talented, great at performance arts or at sports. Each school is encouraged to appoint a coordinator, and to find out what this role entails, the CareerWise bus headed for St Clair's School in Essex to meet maths teacher Ken Lewis.
You can find teaching satisfying, okay, fine, but it's nice to have something that's slightly different within the school, something that's out of the normal classroom environment.
When he's not teaching, Ken runs the school's Gifted and Talented programme. He encourages all departments, from technology to languages, science to PE, to run activities that help the gifted students in these subjects achieve their potential.
I mean, I'm a coordinator, but I'm not an expert in all subjects. What I can do is go and encourage that member of staff, do some research for them, become almost like a facilitator in a sense, help them with funding whenever possible, and encourage that department to take it on there. I mean, they're the experts in their subject area. They're the ones that will identify the individual students.
The Gifted and Talented programme began in the school as part of its inclusion policy.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
We have special programmes for hearing impaired children and visually impaired children where they're additionally supported. We have programmes for children who've got general learning difficulties. But just like those children, the children at the very able end, they too need extra support and challenge.
These are students that have been identified within the technology department.
That one would do better because it can turn without the wheels flying.
One of the key things was the fact that they'd been showing interest within the subject. That's what the teacher in charge wanted. He wanted students who showed interest, wanted to get involved, because once you've got that on board, academic results within the subject are just going to follow.
Looks good, but it looks better than the one with the sensor. It looks absolutely rubbish.
Well, this is all part of the PE Gifted and Talented programme, which has been set up by the PE department itself. A number of the students who are regarded as gifted and talented in sport for a variety of different sports. We've got football, rugby, dance choreography going on as well.
1, 2, left, right, left, hold 5, 6, 7, 8.
The whole point of this now is the fact that we're taking her with her talents and giving her the opportunity to pass those skills on to other students. But it's the student herself who's actually designing this programme, putting it together and actually implementing it with the other students, which I think is absolutely brilliant.
One of Ken's main passions is space science. It's something he encourages the gifted maths and science children to take an interest in.
How do we rate the success then of their mission?
The fact is, if that astronaut survives when it
Yeah.
falls down, and the astronaut is not dead in cracks, then it is success.
This is the astronaut.
That is our astronaut.
Okay.
Ken has coordinated trips to New York and Europe for the gifted students. But the highlight of the year is when he takes his highest achievers in maths and science on a trip to Space Camp in Alabama. The trip started 3 years ago and has become a regular part of the school calendar.
It genuinely is the best school event I've ever been involved in myself. What was your number one memory, straight off the top of your head? What was it?
The mission.
The mission? What were you doing in the mission?
I was a pilot.
What was the Canada arm like?
Got some injuries.
Yeah, what were the injuries that happened to you?
I broke my back.
Yes?
Got decompression sickness.
Right.
And broke my leg.
All in all, a fun-filled trip.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I think they appreciate what's done for them, genuinely appreciate what's done for them. So, as I say, it becomes quite enjoyable then. For them it's something different, and for you as a teacher it's something different. It's out of your normal environment, it's out of your normal routine. I think that's needed in any job.
Well, there's obviously a man who relishes his role working with gifted children. To discuss the pros and cons of the programme further, I'm joined now by Deborah Eyre, John Banks and Helen Wilson. How did it come about, this programme, Deborah?
Firstly, because Ofsted data suggested it was a sort of problem for a lot of schools, and there were youngsters who were under-challenged and sometimes bored. In amongst that group, the ones who suffered most were the young people from traditionally disadvantaged backgrounds. So if they had talent and it wasn't being nurtured, they wouldn't win through. And finally, if a school challenges its most able pupils, the evidence is that you get a raising in standards generally, so it's good for all.
Helen, do you think that the whole area of gifted and talented children has been addressed perfectly at the moment?
I actually personally don't think it's a case of gifted children. I think it's children with particular gifts and with particular aptitudes. And whilst in many ways you can say all children have particular strengths, there are certainly some who need more challenge than others. And it's right on a personal level, on a personalised learning agenda, to challenge those children.
All of us, I think, feel kind of uncomfortable with sticking labels on children, and that's quite right. What we're dealing with is developing individuals, developing children who are going to become adults. It would be wrong to assume that all children know how good they are, and if nobody tells them that they're capable of doing well, then they're not going to necessarily believe that themselves. So there's a positive side to that. It's in the context of we think you have the ability to go further in this particular subject or in this particular area, but you'll have to strive to do so. So it's all about a climate of high achievement.
Young people, whether they're gifted or talented, whether or not they're in the middle band, or whether they have special educational needs, deserve something extra, because more often than not, they come from backgrounds which are socially deprived. Now, in terms of gifted and talented, I absolutely agree that labels aren't particularly helpful. But there are children with gifts, there are children with talents. Where we're at now is a debate about how you track individual young people in terms of their emerging talents. You may be plateauing as a youngster for years and years, and then suddenly something actually, there's that lovely spark, you know, that
An
happens.
inspirational teacher, perhaps?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
maybe a whole set of constellation of circumstances, including stuff that happens outside school as well.
So, Deborah, it isn't the short straw then for a teacher to be the gifted and talented coordinator?
Well, it kind of depends where you are. 51% of them have had no training. 24% of them nationally have 5 or more other responsibilities in their school. So that's a pretty tall order.
Sounds like there's an awful lot to do, Deborah. What is going to happen in the immediate future?
The gifted and talented coordinator role is going to be replaced by a leading teacher, and there will be a leading teacher in every secondary school and in every group of primary schools. Whereas the gifted and talented coordinator had a great emphasis on coordination across the school, the leading teacher will also play the role of the lead professional to try to develop and guide provision in the classroom, which is at the heart of provision for gifted and talented.
But in terms of that particular role, Helen, do you think that the role has been well served by teachers who have been properly trained to undertake it?
Yes, I think it's been a role that's developed well. I mean, there's been a national training programme for gifted and talented coordinators. I think the thing we can then stress is the in-class provision. You know, this really encouraging children's thinking, encouraging children being adventurous in their learning. And the role of the coordinator was to encourage and facilitate that throughout the school.
Okay, Deborah, John, Helen, thanks very much indeed for joining us on CareerWise. Well, the Gifted and Talented programme doesn't just exist at secondary level. It offers primary school teachers a different set of challenges. At St Bartholomew's Primary School in Brighton, Jessica Evans-Preston is the Gifted and Talented coordinator. She encourages children's thinking through questioning And one of the ways she does this is to run a challenge club.
I love doing Challenge Club, and people say to me, why do you do a club on a Friday night? And I'm like, actually, I really enjoy it. You can come along if you want. And sometimes the teachers pop in and they just get bombarded with things like, what would happen if trees could walk, you know, and they're just like, oh, right, okay.
What would happen if gravity was turned off for 5 minutes a day? What is gravity first? What is gravity? Daniel?
Gravity is kind of like an invisible rope around you, and it's like tied on the ground.
To keep you on the ground.
Yeah.
The activities Jessica runs at the school are designed to let the children find their own gifts and talents.
We create registers, so the register will have children who are gifted and talented in different areas. It was from the registers, which we created as a team, I then selected children who were more able overall and children who thought differently and enjoyed thinking. So then we bring them together on a Friday night and literally just talking to each other.
You could have seatbelts sometimes strapped.
So there'll be quick your seatbelt on.
Yeah, when you feel like floating a bit, you can just put your seatbelt on.
It's enjoying thinking for the sake of it and enjoying company of children who are like themselves. I also ran a staff meeting about questioning, because questioning is a really big thing, gifted and talented, making children think, helping children to go out there really, think out there, and therefore finding the children in the class who do think in a slightly quirky way and do think differently to other children, and often find classes quite hard to access because they're quite flat.
In an effort to challenge his gifted children, Deputy Head Teacher Marcelo Starikov sets an open-ended starter question at the beginning of each day.
If you could grant the world 5 wishes, what would they be? Joe?
No wars.
No wars. What a brilliant, brilliant wish. I hope that comes true one day. Those starters are particularly useful for the gifted and talented because they allow their interests and their knowledge, and because they're also open-ended, there's no limit to how far they can take them. Amber?
Girls and boys to play football together.
Girls and boys to play football together. Is that a wish for the world? What's particularly interesting and particularly special for us in primary schools is that we are able to offer the curriculum in a very open-ended way. I want you to come up to our concept line. Elson is a total ban on smoking. Regina is no ban at all. Where would you put yourself at the end of the discussion on our concept line? Jadu, come up and place yourself on our concept line, please. This is a total ban. Never ever another cigarette ever in the whole history of the world. So it's about discovering the gifts and talents in a child rather than waiting for them to show.
Well, that's it for this episode of CareerWise. If any of the stories we have covered have tickled your fancy, you can find out more details by checking out our website. The address is www.teachers.tv. All that remains for me to do is to thank our guests for appearing on the programme today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.